Hello everybody, thanks for taking time to watch this video. I'm here with Dave Thalacker of Iowa State University Foundation, which we're now going to call ISU Foundation for brevity. Dave is a customer of Adobe Sign. He's doing some really awesome things over at the ISU Foundation to transform the organization and go digital. So Dave, thanks for being here with us today. We
Certainly.
appreciate the time.
My pleasure.
And I'm excited to hear your story and what you guys have been doing. So if you want to first maybe give us your background and talk about your organization.
Absolutely. I've been with the foundation about 10 years, 25 years total, coming up on 25 years in IT. And the foundation is stewards private gifts to the university, really trying to accomplish their land grant mission of spreading education, making it available to all, practical knowledge, and then sharing that knowledge across the world. So it's a very important mission, and it's something I'm really thrilled and excited to be a part of.
That's an awesome organization, and anything education focused, I think, is critical in today's day and age. And the Cyclones, are they pretty good in sports as well?
Cyclones are fantastic, of course.
Good. I figured that you would say that, but I wanted to make sure. So about your background, you've been in IT for quite a while. What kind of sparked your interest in moving towards these digital solutions, trying to get away from paper, the things that you would do with Adobe Sign?
Well, really, process automation is not a new thing. It's been around forever. We've been trying, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing forever. What's different now is the speed at which we can do that, the ease that we can do that, the integrations with other products that previously would take us not days, it would take us weeks, it would take us months. We're now,
together,
we're measuring these cycles in hours, maybe days now, instead of these long durations.
Awesome. And what kind of technologies have you used at ISU Foundation to kind of spur this change, this speed?
Well, Adobe Sign has been the linchpin for us here, but being able to integrate that with other offerings that we already are comfortable with and that we use, specifically SharePoint, Microsoft Teams. We're really excited about what we can do with Flow. Okay. We're just on the cusp of that work, but these technologies that we've already made investments there. People are already comfortable with these tools.
So adoption of the newer technology is spurred by already having adoption of a SharePoint type technology that people are used to.
Absolutely. You're not rolling out something that's shiny, that's new, that might be intimidating. It's not at all. These are familiar, comfortable tools.
That's awesome. So when you make a change in a SharePoint that people are familiar with, how are you deploying that? How are you pushing that out to your end users?
Well, our first efforts, we ran parallel processes and we were very thorough. We had conversations with all of our shareholders, stakeholders, and really that was great, but it went against the timeline. Yeah. What we've really altered and how we're doing it now is that we're just getting it out there, letting people use it. If we're going to fail, we want to fail fast, so we can iterate on those efforts, and that's where the tools really shine because of the flexibility. And that as we make changes, we can go down a different path if we find out that it's not working for our users.
Sure. And you say, fail fast, fail often. How do you gather feedback from? Is it mostly the technology and the data behind it? You get talk to your end users and see how they like the tools. Like, what's kind of the way you know that you have either failed or succeeded with a new deployment?
Well, I have to say that we integrate ourselves. We put ourselves in, and not just in meetings that occur every several weeks where we'll check on. We're talking with these people every day. Whether it be using Skype, some of the Microsoft technologies, just quick check-ins. How are things going? Dropping by people's desks. We're taking some of the formality out of the process and making it, I think, a little bit more collaborative. Yeah. As we're bringing in more and more people, not just from our own organization, but also from the larger university, vendors, partners, anybody who has a part in the process, we're getting involved.
Yeah. So how has your team dynamic changed, do you think, in this new collaborative environment versus maybe the classic IT structures of old films and such like that.
Yeah, we're silo killers, not cyclone killers, but we're finding
the
ourselves.
Cyclones are always winning.
Cyclones
and the
are always
silos
winning.
Are always losing.
Well, we're not always winning, but we're doing our best.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So really trying to break down those, and a big focus of our organization is cross-functional, interdisciplinary teams, and trying to get rid of those silos that have really inhibited us in the past when it was, well, that's an IT thing. Well, now everybody's has the power, and we're there just to help accelerate that and to smooth out when they get into trouble.
Do you find that end users view you guys in a different light now, as not like IT, scary IT, more of like a partner?
Well, I'd like to think that we've always had that great relationship. This just further strengthens it, because it shows that we're a partner with them.
That's fantastic.
We're not us and them. It's really we're together.
So in terms of material impact, like what processes are faster, paper is less. What kind of impact have you seen in the organization?
Well, I ran a report this morning, and our median time to complete an agreement, and this is data that I'm able to now get. It was just under 24 hours. Under a day.
Under a day.
I can't tell you what it was before, because it would have a number that would have been really in weeks, and nobody wanted to know that number.
And how would you have pulled that? I mean, there's no start and end time of the contract. But it's in the mail, right?
You can't measure it. Contracts got lost. Things would get lost on people's desks, and nobody would know where they were. It's forcing us to restart those processes, adding more time, and really making for an ugly, awful process that now people are enjoying. They're having fun with it.
Good. And so, what types of agreements are you guys using Adobe Sign for, and how do you foresee that number of agreements increasing over the next couple of months to years?
Absolutely. We started off with gift agreements, basically communicating how a donor wants their gift to be used. It involved university staff, professors, deans. So it wasn't the easiest agreement to get through, such as a non-disclosure agreement. Oh, that's
pretty straightforward.
That's low-hanging fruit. And
exactly.
anybody could do that. So we didn't start off easy, but we also didn't start off with the hardest type of agreements. We're really moving on now, because that was a wild success.
Awesome.
I couldn't have forecasted it was going to be that good. And where other areas are now asking us, saying, hey, we've got processes we want. We have agreements and documents that we want to automate. Do us next.
They're coming to you. They're like raising their hands. Yeah, that's awesome.
As opposed to, it's your turn.
Yeah, I guess I'll come and do my stuff. Yeah, no.
Absolutely. It's
because they can see the impact, right?
They can. The impact is
faster.
huge.
It makes their jobs easier.
It is. So our next set of agreements it starts with a form and a process and approvals, ends in an agreement and compliance afterwards. So it's dealing with grants, and it's certainly far more complex, and it's probably our biggest undertaking. We probably should wait to do this until the very end, but this has the most impact.
Solve the big problems. The rest will fall into place afterwards.
Absolutely. Yeah. This touches the largest swath of people, and has the biggest potential to change and transform our business.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the gift agreements, because those are customer facing in the sense of
Absolutely.
The donors are actually interacting with the process, right? Have you seen people more willing to be involved in the donation process because it's more simple now? Or is that not really material because they were going to get involved anyway?
They were going to be involved either way.
Yeah.
But what we've done is we've changed their experience. And this is an experience that they're already seeing if they're working with a mortgage lender, if they're working with a bank. These larger companies that maybe have the resources to use e-signatures, absolutely. But what we now have the same capabilities without necessarily having to spend the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So they're expecting their experience to be better than it has in the past, and we're surprising a few maybe that haven't already been down this path. It isn't always convenient to mail paperwork to them, to track them down. They might be traveling, they might be at a summer home, but to be able to get it to them, get their feedback right away, get that signature, and keep that document flowing. because really the sooner that we can complete these agreements, the sooner these gifts can be processed and we
utilized.
And utilized, absolutely. These transformative gifts that are changing people's lives. And why would we want to delay that when we can do it faster?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I like the way you talk about they expect this experience because they're doing it already elsewhere. And so I would imagine you haven't had a lot of negative feedback from donors. People will probably find this to be great and have no problems with it.
It is. I will say that the biggest challenge was internally educating our staff that these are legal, binding. These are just as good as paper.
Yeah.
They're far better than paper. In which maybe you're going here next, but that leads me to paper, which is that for the last 10 years, our paper output in terms of what we were printing and subsequently shredding and paying to shred has increased every year. I expect, we don't have numbers yet, but I expect our numbers in year 11 to go down in terms of what we're printing for the first time as a direct result.
And you're still increasing in productivity and processing of what you guys need to do, but now without paper.
Absolutely.
So what would you have done differently if you went into the beginning? If you looked at this gift agreement process and you know then what you know now, what would you have maybe done differently?
I would have been less conservative. We're very conservative by nature, and we're just as an organization are also transferring to these more agile processes. We've done them in pockets. This isn't certainly not new to us, but our entire IT organization as well as the larger organization, we'd have gotten it out there and gotten it in people's hands. Quick versions, a viable offering, maybe that doesn't have all the bells and whistles, doesn't have every process covered, but we'd have put it in their hands sooner. Gotten that feedback sooner. I think that our first project would still have been a wild success, but we could have done it in half the time. It's just our conservative nature wanted to.
To tiptoe into it, right?
Let's slow roll this to make sure that everything works well. It really wasn't our team that pushed this forward. It was our internal customers that said, well, this is great. Let's do more.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you were to give one piece of advice to someone who's just starting out, who's just now thinking about going digital, has maybe a very convoluted process they're looking at, what would your piece of advice be for that person?
I would start with something that maybe that's the low-hanging fruit, but something that has a big impact, but something that's easy. Find a group within the organization that's already friendly to IT. And then take and celebrate that success, share it with everybody. It's been contagious. As soon as people found out that we had this capability, a few surprised me and said, well, it's about time. It's like, well, it's about.
You're like, really?
It's about time. But once they find out, people are knocking down our doors, and we're finding that there are a lot of processes that are there's a pent-up demand and a pent-up need for the technology. And taking it that step further, it used to be a burden. There were plenty of things that we had needs for, but there was a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of cost oftentimes associated with integrating those with other systems, and that's where Adobe Sign has really shined for us because that part's done for us. We just don't spend that much time on that. We spend more time with our teams to figuring out what their needs are and communicating with them.
That's awesome. That's great. I mean, I think starting with a big impact and then celebrating this, I think you have to shout it as loud as you can and then brace for the people coming banging at your door to do more, right?
And it wasn't even our team that had to say, hey, look at what we're doing. It's all of our internal customers that said, look what we're doing. They're shouting it out to the world.
That's awesome.
Because it was making their lives easier. So oftentimes, making it easier for our customers means making it harder inside. Somebody has to sacrifice there. To avoid the cliche, it was a win-win. Truly, everybody benefited.
That's awesome. Speaking of winning, if I was going to come to a Cyclones sporting event, what would be the best event to come to?
You've got to come to Jack Trice Stadium, and you got to watch Cyclone football. It's an amazing experience, and the team is on a great trajectory. Winners of the Liberty Bowl, last year's Liberty Bowl,
Awesome.
And
That's fantastic.
Cyclone football is
where it's at.
the best fan base in the country,
Fantastic.
in my humble Cyclone opinion.
I mean, there's no bias here at all.
No bias whatsoever. Maybe a
Dave,
touch.
I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story. It sounds like you've made some awesome, awesome changes at ISU Foundation, and really across a large swath of people who are interacting with your foundation. So we appreciate the time and the candid feedback with how things have gone. We're gonna now be talking with other customers here today. We're having a Adobe Sign community gathering where customers are going to come together to share their stories, share their what they've done at their organizations and how Adobe Sign has really helped facilitate change, and then also learn what more they could do or what they could do differently with Adobe Sign. So looking forward to that. Again, Dave, thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely.
the time, and we'll talk more this afternoon.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.